am very excited to be speaking with you about Tokyo Revengers. I am very much in love with the series, and when you got announced as Takemichi, I was like, yes,
We did it.
we did it. Dreams do come
Yes,
true, kids.
absolutely.
I'm Brianna Lawrence, fandom editor over at the Mary Sue, pronouns
Okay.
she and her, and I am
Okay.
over here with.
AJ Beckles, voice actor, for Tokyo Revengers, Takemichi Hanagaki. I go by he, him.
Awesome. I mean, you can't really top that besides I'm Takemichi. Like, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Like
you are.
that's me. What?
Oh my god. Stop fangirling. Shut it off. Interview time. All right, cool. First things first, the icebreaker question.
Yes.
What got you into anime and later voice acting?
What got me into anime? Oh my gosh. All right. So I first started watching anime when I was a kid, Toonami.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was anime. Well, actually, no. What was Pokemon on? I don't know what Pokemon was on first.
Pokemon was on because it wasn't Toonami. Was it Fox? I don't remember.
It was one of the things that existed that no longer exists now.
You're correct. There were a lot of different stations playing anime, but not labeling it as anime.
You're
They're just
right.
like, here you go, kids, watch TV.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that was my start officially was Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and things like that. I didn't watch Pokemon too much, but that was definitely mainstream.
Yeah.
And Yu-Gi-Oh for sure. I love Yu-Gi-Oh. Collected them all the time. But the
Do you
first
still collect them?
no, I don't. I don't collect them. I still have all the cards though. I have like
Oh,
500 to stash
whoa,
away in the
that's
cards.
awesome.
Yeah, what I used to do, I used to take them and like organize them by like magic and attack, and I would just like look at them and then I'd put them away. It was nothing special. I never play with them, but they were great. Um, but my first official anime was like that I watched is Naruto for sure, and
Mm.
that anime means so much to me, and it I watched it when I was in a tough time as a kid, and it was beautiful. Um, but later on, I didn't know those were anime. I thought they were just like cartoons,
Right.
and it was great. And one day a family member of mine was like, "Hey, you should try out this voiceover thing," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "It's this thing you get to use your voice and you act," and I was like, "That's not a thing, but sure, I'll try it." So I tried it out and I fell in love with it. And thinking back when I think the reason I fell in love with it was one because I just happened to be good at it when I first started. I think that's always a good thing. And two, I saw that it's something where your height, your appearance, your skin color, nothing should matter. If you can act, you can do it. And I thought back to Miley Flanagan, who plays Naruto,
Yeah.
and Tara Strong, and these women that played like amazingly strong like boy characters that I looked up to, and I was like, oh, that's sick. So I just fell in love with it, and I went down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and joined some like indie forums online and started submitting and having fun with it, and here I am today.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that story. That's wonderful. And that's like very true. Like voice acting is like in theory they shouldn't care what you look like or anything like that. So it's like we need your voice and that's
Yeah.
what we're looking at. So
Hmm.
that's awesome.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So, second question.
Hmm.
First of all, congratulations on being our crybaby hero.
Thank you. That's me.
Takemichi is definitely a character who shows an incredible range of emotion,
Yes.
especially since the people he's around don't know the truth about what he's going through
They
in order
don't.
to try and save them.
Right.
How do you prepare to take on a role like this?
It's difficult.
I would imagine.
It's very hard because there are times when he's having a thought and I'm like, okay, in his mind, nobody else knows about this. He can't say this out loud. So this is a more intimate scene. In other scenes, he's really loud because he's technically a kid again. And then in other scenes, he's more serious. He's still, kind of, um, lighthearted and fun, but he's also 26 years old and he's more
Yeah.
mature. So how do I balance that out? At what points is he thinking as 26-year-old him? What points is he thinking as 13 or 14-year-old him? And at what points is he just in between and is having a good time? It's really challenging. And to be honest, I could just say that it's a collaborative effort between, the writer, the director, and I, just trying to make sure that it all sounds coherent and okay and cohesive. And I think so far we've done a good job.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
yeah, thank you. It's been a lot of fun, and it's not every day you get a character in anime that's this complicated and sophisticated to play. So I'm honored for this to be like one of my first ones.
Is this one of your first ones?
This would be my. I've played two characters. I booked Shiki Tadamaru and Kimono Jihen. And then a week later, I booked this. So
Wow.
this is my. These are the only two animes I've done. I'm working on them at the same time, and they're both lead characters. So I'm very lucky.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And this one especially because
Oh yeah.
there's so many layers to him, I think, because
So
you're
many.
right, he's an adult person
Right.
going back in time to his kid self, but he's in
Right.
the body of his kid self going through some very adult situations.
Exactly.
And it's
Exactly.
like he knows what's happening and what he needs to do to stop it, but he also doesn't know what he needs to do because everything keeps changing. And
Yes.
it's like, how do you deal with all of I can't deal with that. And I'm way older than Takemichi. Like I'm in my 30s. I'm like, there's no way I could handle like this back and forth he has to do and like
Uh-huh.
getting information from the future, taking back
Exactly.
to the past, taking the
Uh-huh.
past information to the future, and
Right.
just knowing what's coming and trying to stop it, but not knowing how to stop it. And
Hmm.
it's time travel. So it's like a viewer, I'm like, if you
Oh
mess
yeah.
with time,
What's gonna
that's
happen?
gonna mess up everything. So
Exactly.
it's and then you like have to put all of that into one character.
It's very yeah, and it's again, I count myself. It's hard, but it's extreme. I'm extremely lucky because not only is he and the way time travel works is very different. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
oh, I can just go back and if I mess up this time, I can just go back and do it again. He can't
Yes.
because the time is always moving forward. For some reason, when he goes back in time, it's just he ends up in the present exact time as he was in the past or whatever. So he can't go back and redo things more than once.
Right.
So he has to learn on the fly, and it's so interesting being able to play somebody that tries to do that and fails a little bit. He's
Mm-hmm.
never 100% successful, and I think that's what makes him so fun to watch.
I felt so bad when like he got through was it like the third episode and the fourth episode and he's like, oh,
Mhm.
I get to go see Akon again. And I'm
Right.
like, yay! And I'm like
Exactly.
and I'm
Oh.
like, no, now what do
Yeah.
you do? And just good lord.
Hmm.
You're absolutely right. It's hard, but you balance it really well. And
Thank you.
I think you do. It's like that's a lot of emotions to have at the same time. And also fear, being terrified of like the situation you're in
Yeah.
and
Because he.
he's like a character who's like and I think I have it in one of the questions, but I'm gonna like mention it anyway. But it's like he's not physically as strong as everybody else he's
No.
around,
No.
but he keeps standing back up anyway.
Exactly.
And
That's
it's
why I love
like
him.
I know, and I'm just like in the third episode, he's like getting his ass kicked, and he's like
Hmm.
smiling the
Uh huh.
whole time, and I'm like, because he's like. As long as I stay standing and get through this, I can fix the future. So
I
I'll take
win.
all the hits. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh my
stressed.
gosh. It's so good. It's so good.
So good. um, what's it like playing a character who gets to go back to the past to try and fix things for the better? Not just the death of Hina and Naoto, but his own outlook on life.
Oh boy, it's really great. There's something that I've kind of discovered while watching him is where he has the I don't know what it's called, but the hairdo is all spiked up and
Oh,
everything.
the yeah, yeah.
And he's this kid. He's a kid and he's having a good time and he's living life and he gangs are cool and everything like that. And you go back to the past and you kind of see what the hairdo and the dye and the way he acts that he's a lot less mature. He's a very different person. So like seeing him go back and decide, no, I want to change. I'm not the same person. I feel like in more serious scenes, his hair is down because he's more
Mm-hmm.
like he's himself. It's not a joke anymore. Um, and I think it's beautiful being able to play somebody that's so willing to change themselves for other people because that's hard.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
so easy to run away. It's so easy to be like, no, I'm okay. I'm me and it's fine. And sometimes, yeah, you do have to stick to yourself, but sometimes you just got to admit when it's time to grow. And I think he does a great. It takes a while. It takes him a little bit, and you can see him
Mm-hmm.
in each episode, kind of getting a little bit more confidence, a little bit more um, backbone. But I think that he does an amazing job of slowly changing himself for the better.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I agree. And like, because a lot of people ask us, like, if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what would you do? What would you tell them? And
Hmm.
usually my advice is like, just stick to being yourself and believe in yourself. And it's
Yeah.
just like, it's simple advice, but I feel like this is kind of what he's doing. Like, he
Yeah.
goes back and he's like, in the first episode, he's like, this is when I peaked.
Yeah.
And
Right.
he's like, this is when I peaked.
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
and it's like all these things he's learning, he's like taking back to his adult self, and I constantly have to remind us of like, this is a grown up going back in time, being able to like be like, no, you should like stop apologizing so much. And God,
Yeah.
that lesson alone, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, stop apologizing so much. Like,
Yeah. You have nothing to be sorry for. It's like,
exactly. And he's learning like, oh, I don't have to be sorry, I didn't do anything wrong.
exactly.
And I feel like it has to be kind of like weird to learn that like this one thing you did led to this giant ripple effect where like the love of your life dies.
Yeah.
And it's
It's
like, oh, I ran away from the gang, and then oh, now her and her brother died. And
hmm
so it's like, oh my God, that's a horrible thing to learn.
Yeah, I mean, it's a class. Well, I don't know if it's a classic story, but it's a very unique story where, in order for him to save everybody else, he has to save himself. He has to save
Yeah.
and fix his own childhood trauma, and
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's really cool and interesting.
And I feel like he can't save everybody else until he like gets through his own like mental blocks, and like,
Exactly.
because he has those moments where he's like, I'm not the strong one. I'm not like these guys. And it's
Yeah,
like, but you are, because you're in this moment right now.
yeah. He's like, I'm weak. This is who I am, and that's fine. But you're like, you're not weak. You're fine. Like it's okay to fail sometimes. You
I
know.
do love that we have a character that's like failing and getting beaten up, but he's succeeding because
Yes.
he's still trying. And it's like,
Yes.
I don't have to actually win the fight. I just have to stay in the fight. Like,
Exactly.
I don't have
Perfectly.
to win. I don't have to be, what's the guy's name? Kiyomasa, the
Kiyomasa.
guy.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like, I
Uh-huh.
don't have to actually beat him. I just have to stand here.
Right.
And
Exactly.
that works. And
Hmm.
and I'm like, that actually works. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't even have to throw a punch, or I could try, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. I'm still getting back up, and that's
Hmm.
all that matters. And
Exactly.
I think that's wonderful.
Hmm.
Um, if you could go back 12 years to the past, would you change anything? If so, what would it be? If not, why would you leave it as is?
If I had to go back, I'm 23 years old. If I went back 12 years, I'd be 11.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah. I I don't know. I think I was happy when I was 11. I think things were okay. I think I don't know if I would change anything. And I say that because I feel like you are a culmination of your experience.
Yeah.
Um, if there's one piece of advice I'd give to my past self, it would be to keep not worrying about what people think. It's really easy,
Yes. Hmm.
especially as you grow as an adult. Because when you're a kid, nothing matters. Like the world is your oyster. You live in your head. But as you get older and older, and unfortunately, you become more, aware of what everybody else thinks. It's
Hmm.
harder to believe in yourself. It's harder to have that confidence when you want to do the thing. Um, so if anything, I would tell myself that. But I don't think I thought. I think I was happy when I was 11. I don't know if I would change anything. Yeah.
That's sound advice. I discovered as I'm like doing like this whole like fandom editor thing that this is exactly what my kid self was doing. Like,
Hmm.
exactly, like watching anime, loving anime, and like at some point someone said something where I got derailed, because when you're an adult you notice what people say. And it's like, people are like, there was a post in the site, aren't you embarrassed of your kid self? And I'm like, my kid self is actually my adult self,
Yes.
almost to a T, except now, I have my own stuff
Yeah.
because I'm an
Exactly.
adult. But it's like this
Exactly.
whole, like, you're talking to voice actors you like my kid self would be so happy, like
True.
so thrilled. And it's like, this is exactly what my kid self would have wanted.
Hmm.
And it's like, good Lord, my kid self was right this whole
Exactly.
time. Like, was right to
So
like just unapologetically love things.
so correct. That is beautifully put, because you look at somebody as a kid, and if a kid says at 10 years old they want to be a professional basketball player, nobody calls them weird, nobody calls them crazy. They say good for you, go and do it. You say,
Hmm.
at least back then, I don't know about now because things have changed a bit, but back then you say, I want to do voice acting for anime, and you get a weird look. Naruto run on the field. It looked very weird. Um, and it's not right because there's nothing wrong with it. I think
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with it at all. Just be yourself. I think that's what I would tell myself.
There's like nothing wrong with encouraging a child.
No,
Like
no,
there's nothing wrong with it at all.
no.
Next question. It's interesting that Takemichi and his friends wanted to be well-known delinquents, yet don't seem to have the fighting capabilities as other characters.
Yeah,
Even so, Takemichi continues to make good impressions on the people around him. What is it about Takemichi that makes him so likable?
it's interesting. I remember when I got the audition for the show. I didn't know what it was. I had heard about it online because people were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Tokyo Revengers is so cool," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I think I checked it out and I looked at it and I was like, maybe not my cup of tea. I looked at the first couple chapters, and then I got the audition for it, and another anime. And I was like, whoa, I want to be in this other anime. And I auditioned for this. And I was like, and I auditioned for this. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And then I did it. And I always give my 100% no matter what the property is, um, even though I wasn't as interested. And then I did it. And then I got cast. And I was like, whoa, a main character. I wasn't so happy to play the character as I was the fact that it was a main character. And I think looking at him, and I think the reason I was like that is because looking at him, I was like, he doesn't look that cool to me.
Mm,
He doesn't stand out like Draken does, or like,
hmm.
other characters that'll come up later, or Mikey. He doesn't have like a cool undercut or earrings or anything like
Yeah,
that.
his hair isn't multicolored and
Right. I'm like, who's this guy? And I think there's also the common, trope of, oh, the main character that cries all the time, and oh my God, it's so annoying, stop crying. But that I don't think it's the same way. I don't think the fans really react, and I don't really react the same way seeing him cry because he's not. He's getting his ass whooped,
yeah.
for 15 minutes, and he's still going, and that's his strength. He doesn't give up, and he doesn't complain about it either. While he has people like Mikey and Draken that are super strong, and they're really cool and really like fun to watch. He's fun to watch because any of them, Mikey or Draken, gets beat up just as much for whatever reason, someone's stronger than them, they probably give up. And he won't.
He just
And
refuses.
he just refuses and he keeps going. And nobody asked him to do this. Nobody asked him to save Hinata, or
Hmm.
whoever other characters that he might or might not have to save in the future. Um, he's doing this because he wants to, and he feels he has to because he cares about the people in his life. And I think that's what makes him so interesting and so fun, and why you like him maybe even more than some other characters that are really strong.
I never thought about it, but he is not asked to do this at all. He's
No.
like, I'm gonna go in the past and I'm gonna do it. It's like there's no mentor to be like, this is how you go back in the past, and
Right.
here is the power I bestow upon you. It's just like he just got up one morning and went to work and got pushed in front of a train,
Yeah.
which.
Yeah.
But like he woke up from that, and Naruto's like, you went back in the past and you can save my sister. He could have been like, no.
Nah, are you crazy?
Like
Like,
that's quite all right. I went back to the past and got my ass kicked again.
right.
I relived this traumatic event from my childhood. I don't want to do this anymore. And
It's I guess the best way to put it is he ran away in his previous life. He ran away. He moved
mhm.
away. He was done with it, but now he's running towards it,
Yeah,
and that's what's so cool about him.
like at any point, like this is the type of character where if he's getting beaten up so much, you expect someone to be like, "That's enough, no more,
Right,
like,
right,
like
right.
get out of the fight." And
Exactly.
he's like, well, I guess they do that in the third episode. His friends are like, "You've done enough," and he's like, "No, I haven't."
Yeah,
And you're
yeah.
like,
Like, what do I care? Like, I'm not done yet. You know?
like I feel like he truly has nothing to lose in a way,
No.
or at least he thinks he doesn't. And it's like,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because he's saving this girl he loved in middle school who he hasn't even talked to in like years.
No.
he's just like, oh no, she died. That's messed up. I should do something about that.
Right,
And
exactly.
most of us would just be like, oh no, that's sad that they died.
Oh, that sucks. I knew them one time. Like,
Guess their Facebook status changed. Oh.
exactly. Oh, too bad.
But yeah, I never, and I love this season, I never once thought of the fact that like nobody's like, hi Takemichi, I'm the one to do this. I mean, there's Naruto, but he could walk away from Naruto. What's Naruto gonna do? Like,
Exactly. Hey, he's the one going to Nacho and being like, "Shake my hand." Like it's time. Like I need to go
this
back and get
this
my ass.
child Naruto must be so confused.
Oh yeah. He's like, why does Creep keep asking to shake my hand all the time?
Again, like he's not here to see my sister. He's here to shake my hand.
Right.
And I always wonder, like, after the handshake, what's happening? Like, is he just
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm back
Right.
to.
Exactly. Like, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, final question.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to with the rest of Tokyo Revengers this season?
Everything.
Everything.
That's vague, but really, I remember after I got cast, I did my research. I picked up the manga. I read the entire thing, but not because I.
Me too.
Not because I had to, though. I mean, I guess I could have just went into each session and been like, "Oh, hey, what's happening in this episode? Okay, cool, let's do it." But I wanted to know what happened in the future, and it doesn't stop. It's so good.
It's very good.
It only gets better. It only gets darker. The stakes only get higher. And this season, that's gonna happen too. Like we're gonna see some really neat stuff. Not stuff I could say, but like really cool stuff, and I cannot wait. And if I'm lucky enough to where I get to play this character for a long while, and get to represent him, that man, it's a treat. I'm very lucky.
I saw like the video for the next arc coming, and I was like, yes.
Yes.
There's so much good, and this is like a series where like every arc just manages to trump itself.
Yes.
Like every single one is like better. And I'm always like, you can't get higher stakes than this. And the arc is like, yes, you can.
Yes.
And we just did. And
yes.
my poor wife, because like we were watching it and I found like, because the publisher, you can like buy the ebooks or whatever. And I just read the whole thing in like, I think like 3 days. I was just like, I'm just going to sit here and read all of it. And she's watching it with me, and I'm like, you are in for a treat. And this series snuck up on me. Like, people were talking about it online, and I was like, what is it? Revengers? And like, isn't that the Thor Ragnarok joke? They'll be the Revengers?
Right.
And I was like, okay, time travel delinquents, sure. And like, I watched the first episode, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Because there's so many heavy hitters out this season too. So
I know
it really gets sneaked up.
There's so much anime to watch. There's so much, but this series is one that like everybody is like, this is a good one. And like this is one I think I saw a tweet. They're like, this is like one of my anime of the year, and I'm like, I agree. And I can't even explain how I even found it. I think someone tweeted about it, and I was like, all right, what is that? I'm gonna go look it up. And,
what I've told everyone is, because the beginning is a little bit more lighthearted, but what I've told everyone is watch until Ep4 and then make your decision.
Oh my god, that episode! And because I knew it was coming because I read the manga, but like my wife did, and she was like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah."
It starts quick.
I know, and it like it doesn't pump the brakes. It's just like now we're on this ride, and we're here, and we're gonna be here for a while, and I'm just like, okay. It's cool to see it animated and like hear the voices and everything, and it's like really good to see that. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm having a good time with it.